How you doing, County Executive?
I'm doing great, C4. Thanks for having me.
Look, let's talk about it now. You and the other county execs talked to up to 115,000 people could lose jobs if Congress doesn't act. Explain that for us.
Well, it would be lose jobs or get furloughed. And, it's a huge impact. The worst part about it is the lack of predictability, the lack of information. So, for example, as I'm putting together my budget, as the other county executives are as well, we don't know what the impact will be. And to me, look, federal government has to get its house in order. We know there has to be cuts. It's just because they can't do their jobs, they decided to put, reductions on every single program across the board, which, kind of makes some sense when you just throw it out and think, well, everyone can reduce their budget. But then when you actually get into practice of doing it, you realize that you're cutting things that just wouldn't make much sense to cut. And so we are concerned about sort of the arbitrary nature of it. And, we have a lot of folks who work at Fort Meade. And frankly, we're at war in this cyber war. There was articles this week from the New York Times and others about, tracking all of these, hacking operations of one building in China. I mean, and so to think that we would reduce the workforce, at Fort Meade or the folks who are protecting our networks, just makes no sense. And so my frustration is the way they've gone about this. And, we really don't have the information to know who's going to get furloughed, from where, what's the impact going to be. Just tell us what the cuts are and let us figure out how to adjust. That's the most frustrating part about this.
Well, County Executive, I talk about you a lot, and others as well, but you were kind of one of the leaders when it came to the recession beginning in 2007, 2008. You began adjusting your budget back then, not with cuts to the increase, but actual cuts, getting rid of your television station. I mean, doing different things in preparation for a rainy day. And all I'm saying is, we've been hearing that cuts are coming to the federal government, whether it's sequestration or whatever. Shouldn't all these different local leaders be getting ready for that rainy day, considering the cuts, whether it's sequestration or whatever, the cuts are coming?
Yes. However, so yes, absolutely. And I appreciate that. I mean, I'm one for, spending every penny that the taxpayers give us as well as we can, as effectively as we can. I eliminated our print shop. I eliminated our cable studio. I took back all mobile devices and told employees they got to pay for their own cell phones, and we'll give a stipend for the work-related work. And so there are ways to find savings at the federal government, the state government. It's just a shame that it's come to this, where it's with the blunt force across everything. Because, for example, there are 5 local airports in Maryland, Martin State Airport, out in Hagerstown, out in Salisbury. They may close on April 1 because they have to furlough every air traffic controller. Well, if you got one air traffic controller at Martin State Airport and he doesn't show up, then you got to close the tower. That means the restaurant at the airport. That means the cargo folks at the airport could lose their jobs. I mean, it's being done in a way that will have a much more dramatic impact on jobs and local economies than is necessary.
Can you understand, though, County Executive, like today, the Washington Times is a story where the federal government is right now, while it's facing these massive layoffs and stuff you're talking about, they're running ads for jobs for people to answer the telephone at $81,000 a year or to park cars at $28 an hour while they're talking about these massive sequestration because they're running ads for jobs. Can you understand why the general public is like, this is a fraud?
Absolutely. And, the farther we get from the public, it's very hard for the public to understand what their money is actually spent on, because you do read those stories. You read the stories of, some agency having a conference in Las Vegas, spending a fortune on whatever, and so there's this disconnect.
By the way, County Executive,
understand the frustration. Yeah.
By the way, County Executive, the magicians were a good touch at that conference.
Well, I'm glad that's all they had out in Las Vegas.
No, it was a little bit more. I just didn't go into it. But I do have to ask you, though, because a lot of people are looking at the bloated budgets, not necessarily of yours, and I'm sure there might be county council people that call up and talk about yours, but we look at the bloated budgets of a lot of these different agencies at the local as well as federal level. And, County Executive, can't we begin to go further down that road to make cuts ahead of, let's say, sequestration or whatever?
We should be making cuts. We should be looking for the most efficient, effective way to operate government every day, not just in crisis time, every single day. And frankly, if we had great elected officials at all levels doing that, we wouldn't be in the position that we are, where the public has such a lack of confidence and trust that it comes to this. So I actually, as much as I think it's the wrong way to go about it, I actually think this process is reasonably healthy in this way. Now the public will really get to see what their dollars are spent on, and then the public will get to say, you know what? I don't mind that airport being closed, or I don't mind that, those folks at, Pax River down in St. Mary's County, being furloughed, or I don't mind this. That's okay. We need to get our house in order. Or the public will say, wait a second, that goes way too far. We need another way to go about it. But I kind of think it's healthy to be going through this process where the public has this level of information to really, make some decisions.
Finally, County Executive, we know what's happening with sequestration, but down in Annapolis, you and the other county execs and the mayor of Baltimore City, how are you looking at this upcoming budget and how, even on top of sequestration, the cuts or whatever they might make, how are you looking at that affecting you?
They've cut us so much in the last few years, there's not much left to cut. They put shifted teacher pensions to us, and so we're just happy that the governor's budget doesn't have, any additional cuts, and they actually begin to restore some highway user funds on a small basis. So, I don't expect much these days. Just don't cut us more. The problem is the uncertainty at the federal level that'll ripple through everything.
Okay, well then, since you brought it up, finally, and that is the question of having your jurisdiction and others have the opportunity to add a nickel to the gas tax. If that gets through, Annapolis President Mike Miller is suggesting, would your county potentially look at that as an option for your local roads?
I think it's a bad idea to have different gas taxes per county, especially a county like Howard County, because we're bordered by 6 other counties. It's sort of, it doesn't make sense. We have one system. But I do applaud Senator Miller for throwing a number of ideas on the table. And look, Virginia just passed a comprehensive package. We can do the same in Maryland. And I like what Virginia did is that they actually reduced the gas tax and found some other mechanisms, whether it be sales tax or others, because frankly, gas tax is a bad way to pay for transportation moving forward. We want people to drive less miles, to use less gas. We have more electric vehicles, hybrids. So it's an unsustainable source moving forward. And so we've got to come together and figure out a solution on transportation funding. So I'm open to ideas, but I think having different gas taxes per counties is not a great one.
Howard County Executive Ken Ulman, it's been great having you on board. I kind of heard something about a governor's race coming up. Have you heard something about that?
I've heard some rumors, and I want them to continue.
Thank you, County Executive. Take care, my friend.